Good morning, welcome back to the show. 11:35 is the time. Tom Slater is still with me and we'll get his thoughts on what my next guest has to say. He's a royal commentator and senior fellow at the New Culture Forum, and he's Rafe Heydel-Mankoo. A very good morning to you, Rafe.
Good morning to you, Julia.
Thank you for joining us. Look, we've talked an awful lot about Peter Mandelson today, rather less so about Andrew. But girls, a lot of these Epstein files do actually focus on Andrew, and of course Sarah Ferguson's just extensive contact with Jeffrey Epstein after he was convicted of soliciting a 14-year-old girl for prostitution, while he was in prison, after he'd been released from prison, contact since then, and the expectation of exchange of, shall we say, help to each other. What do you make of where Prince Andrew, ex-Prince Andrew and Fergie are right now? She's leaving all the charities, they're being closed down. He's out of his lodge, he's lost his title, he's lost his HRH. How does this leave them for the future?
Well, this is such an amazing story, isn't it? Because we all thought essentially he had now gone off into the wilderness, sent into exile on Marsh Farm, this dilapidated cottage on the Sandringham estate, to live out his days in obscurity. He must have thought the worst was over, and he's now back in the centre of the storm. Although I suppose he might be slightly grateful that there's some attention now being focused on Peter Mandelson for a change, rather than just on him. But of course, once again, this explodes all of his notions that he said to Emily Maitlis about being an honourable gentleman and trying to break things off with Epstein. We can see quite clearly he was lying through his teeth. He has maintained that relationship. And also now, of course, as wasn't the case before, his ex-wife, Sarah Ferguson, absolutely in the mire as well, with these fawning emails saying she wants to marry Jeffrey Epstein.
Yeah, at one point, marry me. I mean, and this was after his conviction.
That's the crucial point. This was after the conviction, even bringing her girls into the equation with Jeffrey Epstein, sending terrible emails as well about going off on a holiday where you get up to naughty antics when you're a teenager. And of course, now, this is just the latest blow for her, to lose her charity, Sarah's Trust. It's a small charity set up 5 years ago, but they've now decided to close down. This is the 8th charity that she has now lost, or that has distanced itself from her. She also, of course, had her books pulped that were supposed to be coming out. I mean, so all of her income streams, all of her public profile positions have gone. Whether she'll remake herself in America, that remains to be seen. There was a suggestion she could have done that a couple of months ago. I think now, given everything else that we've seen, much more unlikely that she'll be given a sofa with Oprah.
Yeah. Why don't you do a tell-all interview, a tell-all book? I mean, I wouldn't put it past her. I mean, but this is the thing. She's not actually accused of any wrongdoing. Prince Andrew, there are 2 women in Virginia Giuffre, got the £10 million payoff, even though he'd never met her, certainly hadn't had sex with her when she was 17, and trafficked by Jeffrey Epstein to London to see Prince Andrew, as he then was. But another woman has said that she was trafficked to meet him, with this 26-year-old Russian woman, very beautiful, very clever, to have dinner with. There's some horrible, really creepy photos. That photo of him on all fours over a woman lying flat on the ground. I mean, it's redacted. We can't see her face, but I don't even know whether the woman is conscious or not. I mean, it was just genuinely very, very, very creepy. But he seems to be far more implicated in all of this. So Sarah Ferguson is just a matter of her being money-grubbing and having no judgment. I mean, I have to say, taking her 19 and 20-year-old daughters to go and visit Jeffrey Epstein for lunch in his home, with him, of course, paying for the plane journeys. Of course, she wouldn't pay for her own plane journeys. Basically, a couple of days after he'd been let out of prison for soliciting a 14-year-old girl for sex, blows my mind as a mum, sending him photos of his daughters. I'm lucky for her. I think her daughters were not of his physical type, judging by the pictures we've seen of the women who were being girls routinely raped by Jeffrey Epstein. So lucky them. But when it comes to Andrew, the former prince, the allegations are much more serious. There's a lot of talk about, will he testify in Congress? Will he be forced to? Would he go? But even the king doesn't have that power. And it's clear the king has no truck with Andrew, and hasn't for many years.
Yeah, there's nothing more that the king can actually do. He's done everything within his power to strip Andrew of all titles and honours. Only Parliament can strip him of his dukedom. He remains His Grace the Duke of York in law. He's not His Royal Highness the Duke of York. He is His Grace the Duke of York, although we don't call him that. Congress can't subpoena non-Americans to come over there.
Yeah.
Congress is limited. There is something called a Mutual Legal Assistance Treaty that the Department of Justice can ask British authorities to use to secure testimony, and that would require Andrew to appear before a UK judge, probably Westminster Magistrates Court, something like that, under oath. But even there, you do have the right against self-incriminations.
Yeah.
And even if he's compelled to appear there, he can exercise his right and refuse to answer specific questions. And he can't be and you can only extradite somebody once they have a criminal charge against them.
Yeah.
So the only thing you can appeal to is to Andrew's decency.
Oh, well, good luck with that. We're all chuckling in the studio now. I don't think I'm thinking that. No, we had two very interesting guests on yesterday. We had Dickie Arbiter, who was former press secretary to the late Queen Elizabeth. We also had Di Davies, who's head of Royal Protection some of this time, with Diana, before a lot of this. But both of them were very clear that their view that, look, information about, where Andrew was and who he was with would absolutely, have been held by his Royal Protection officers. And for goodness sake, they were with him. They knew he was on this island or on the home of a man who, oh, look, Jeffrey Epstein, is that the same guy who's been convicted? Due diligence would have required them to know that this man had this conviction. And other information. They would have seen a lot of things. Again, everyone else who worked there or went to this guy's house saw nothing but 14 and 50-year-old girls, for goodness sake. And the man didn't have a daughter. They weren't their friends, And then they report it up the chain, and it would go to very senior levels, and that would be reported to senior figures in Buckingham Palace, including, the Queen's, private secretary. That information would have got that far. The question is, would it have gone as far as the then Queen at the time? What do you think?
I think I wouldn't be surprised at all if it was decided that wouldn't be information that would be worth the Queen knowing to distress her personally.
Because she was elderly, he was her favourite son. Best
exactly.
She doesn't know.
Yeah, but best off that she doesn't know. What you don't know can't hurt you.
But she must have known something when she helped, by all accounts, this 10 million or whatever the figure was, but around then, to Virginia Giuffre for a woman, yes, Prince Andrew had never met. He didn't have that money. She apparently helped fund that. What did she think that money was for?
Well, again, in terms of not informing her, that would give Her Majesty plausible deniability as well about all of this. But yes, obviously, the key issue there was that there was no admission of guilt. This was just to make a story go away. Whether the Queen was advised on all the details of this or whether she was just advised, lawyers say it's not worth us dragging this through the courts or having a huge story. It's worth paying the money to push the story away. She could easily have been remained in the dark about all of the details, even under that situation and scenario. Her Majesty wasn't across all details of these sorts of things at all. But what it does draw, yes, these police protection officers were with Andrew during these visits. Things were known. But same thing with Mandelson, right?
Yep.
What happened to our vetting systems in this country? The due diligence, basic trawling of the internet and so forth would have revealed a lot more than apparently our intelligence services were able to.
I mean, in people's defence, you talk about, Epstein, the 2004 conviction. I mean, that wasn't in the British papers. He wasn't that well known here. Certainly was in American papers. But again, people like Mandelson and Andrew knew of this because he said basically it was it was fitted up and it wasn't true. And so they were aware of these allegations. And of course, that was the pleaded down to the two charges involving one girl, whereas in fact there were, I think, 28 at the time who were complaining of having been trafficked in the same way. The question we're asking our audience, just finally, do you trust there'll be a proper investigation, or do you fear an establishment cover-up? What's your answer to that, Rafe?
I would hope that given the amount of cover-ups that have been exposed as being cover-ups and lies and duplicity, that we will now finally get the truth, because as we all know, the cover-up is often worse than the scandal itself. Nothing is worse than this scandal, but the cover-up so far and the selective, you often think that Mandelson has a split personality. He can't actually remember anything that his past
terrible memory
ever did. I think it's, public trust has been so eroded. Mandelson's there for misconduct in public office. The criminal threshold for that is whether you have destroyed public trust in the institution of your office. I think for everybody involved, we do need clear, transparency with this investigation.
I wish I shared your confidence in that. Rafe Heydel-Mankoo, thank you as always. Tom Slater, a lot of people say cover-ups worse. Doesn't mean that's not going to try and stop them trying to carry on with more cover-ups, though.
No, I think that's an entirely fair point. I guess the question is who is in control of this now and what incentives do they have to cover it up? If you're talking about the Labour Party trying to keep a lid on the unsavoury things that one of their most famous sons has been getting up to, that's one thing. But if you're talking about the authorities getting involved, yes, they can be subject to political pressure, but at the same time they're subject to a whole other form of pressure, which is like, surely you're going to throw the book at this guy. Wouldn't it be embarrassing and toothless not to? So we'll see how this pans out. But at the very least, it's out there in the public domain now. And also a reminder that journalism and political rows like this can expose things even when they have been covered up in the past.
Absolutely, absolutely. And again, the internet. Really good thing, the internet, sometimes. It really is. 11:45 is the time. Going to take a quick break. Love to hear your thoughts. So 344 499 1000.